This is how I live, 1/4 mile at a time. And that's so fucking cheesy, but I love it so much because that's what this series is. Silly, fun, and action-packed. And it has all of those, and Fast X is no exception to that. This movie was tons of fun, and I was smiling the whole time. There's so much good in here, and honestly, from the last few movies, I wasn't expecting a whole lot. Like, I liked Furious 9 for what it was and everything, but Fate of the Furious, not a fan of whatsoever. I like F. Gary Gray, I like Friday and stuff like that, but I don't know, I just don't think he may have fit the mold as much. But regardless of that, Fast X is so good. It blew my expectations out of the water. I mean, there's action, there's a lot of emotional things going on in this movie. I don't want to go into any spoilers or anything, but it definitely takes some chances and does some things with some characters that I was not expecting at all, but I think it did good for the movie because honestly, as much as people are fatigued about these movies maybe, I think this one brought a lot of life back and honestly brought my interest back into the franchise because they took some chances and they did some things that I really loved. Now, the cast here, obviously we have all our returning people like Vin Diesel always doing the fun stuff and the over-the-top madness, and Michelle Rodriguez getting the few fight scenes in there. Honestly, her scene that she has a little battle with I won't say who it is because I don't want to spoil anything, but she has a good battle fighting back and forth, and honestly it reminded me that she was in Dungeons and Dragons earlier this year, which if you haven't seen that, I think it's on like Paramount Plus or Peacock, whatever, but go check it out as soon as you can because she's great in that too. And honestly, this is her year right now because 2 big blockbusters, and honestly, I think she's fantastic in both of them. I kind of wish she would have had a bit more to do, and regardless, great cast, and even some newcomers. Like, of course, we still have John Cena from the last movie, but Alan Ritchson, you'll know him if you see him because he's Fad from Blue Mountain State.
Get out! Get out of my house!
He's a fantastic new addition to this cast, but the main player in this one, the big bad, Jason Momoa, is so great in this. I mean, I get called Jason Momoa because of this stuff all the time, and honestly, when people say I'm Jason Momoa, I just go like, my man, because I love that compliment so much because this man is so fantastic. I mean, he's great at playing the hero, but even better at playing the villain in my opinion. He was so evil, but also like the comic relief in this movie at the same time. He did some very dastardly things that I was not expecting him to do whatsoever, but he played it off so well, and honestly, it seemed like he was having the most fun out of anybody in this movie, and him alone kind of carried this whole thing. But I'm not saying anyone else did anything bad, because I mean, the other newcomer in here, we get a little like Suicide Squad reunion, because John Cena's in it, obviously, but then I think is it Juliana or Daniela Melchior, who played like the rat girl in Suicide Squad? She was also in this new movie, and a bunch of other people came back that you know from the different sequels and stuff, and we even did some stuff where we looked back at one of the movies and re-edited it, and honestly it looks seamless, and it brings in the new character of Jason Momoa very well, and honestly I can't wait to see what they do next because this movie, I just had so much fun with it. The sound, the visuals, I mean, some of it's obviously some of the green screen and stuff like that and a lot of digital effects because you can't put real people in these situations. These people are always when they watch it. There's always people that really love watching these movies, and there's people that like, that doesn't abide by the laws of physics and stuff like that, but it was really cool, wasn't it? It was really fun. And that's what this whole movie's about. It's very stupid, but if you're in on the joke and you want to just laugh and have fun with it, this movie just nails all of those things for you. And right now on my 5-star rating scale, and I will give you my ranking in a minute, but on my 5-star rating scale, this is a solid 4 and might even move up in later watches and stuff like that because I don't want to give it the full 5 right away because there were just some things that I didn't really love at times, but overall, especially with the story, I think this is like one of the best stories in the whole series, honestly, and it's why it's higher up on my rankings, honestly. So I'll give you my rankings right here, right now, because yeah, 4 out of 5 stars, that works for me. Go see it in IMAX if you can. That's what I did, and I thought it really lended to everything going on too. And yeah, it's a very emotional movie, so if you have some younger kids that like Fast and Furious, there's a couple like disturbing parts maybe that are honestly played up for laughs, but it might be visually disturbing to some children, so steer clear of that if you have some really younger ones. But if they're like teenagers, they'll be fine. They're gonna love it, and they're gonna probably laugh at the situation more than the adults might be, because honestly in my theater there weren't a whole lot of people, but I was the only one laughing at this very dark moment that I thought was hilarious. But that's just me and me being dark as hell. But yeah, back to the rankings. At last place is obviously Fast 4, whatever you want to call it, the Fast and Furious. I think it's just called Fast and Furious, but it's just awful. I don't like it. I think it's pretty boring, and same thing with Furious 8 or the Fate of the Furious. Like I said, F. Gary Gray is really a good director in my opinion, but he just didn't really fit in this series that well. Up next, Fast and Furious 6. I don't really love that one at all either. It's like has some good moments in it, but overall, it's very forgetful. But right here is where I start really enjoying these movies. Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, I call it the season of the witch of the franchise, like the Halloween movies. It tried a lot of things, but it still stuck true to like that silly visual style, and I think Justin Lin's a good director to kind of play with that stuff, and honestly all of Justin Lin's movies in here are pretty fun, minus that fourth one. But I think he's a really good director for this movie especially, and all the Tokyo stuff I thought was really fun, and Bow Wow's, he's fun for what he is. I like his little Hulk van and stuff, but there's just a lot of jokiness in here, and the leading man's not a great leading man. He looks like he's 30 even though he's supposed to be in high school, but overall I think it's a really fun movie, and I always go back and watch that one all the time. And right next to that is Too Fast, Too Furious. Now I grew up with that one, loved it so much. It's the only one I actually had on VHS, I think, because me and my brothers watched it all the time, and it just kind of has that 2000s feel to it. It's really cheesy. John Singleton, may he rest in peace, I think directed a very fun movie. Fits the time period, like I said, with the music. The visuals are all pretty goofy, but the back and forth between Paul and Tyrese is fantastic, kind of like enemies becoming friends, and all their different dialogue back and forth. I mean, these quotes are just timeless, like, when do you not say ejectocito, cuz? And then we have this other one too, like, I said don't worry about it, cuz. Like, it's just so goofy, and it's been used in memes multiple times since then, and it just lives on and that kind of stuff. And this movie's just so much fun to watch all the time. Like, I can't stop watching without a smile on my face the entire runtime. And then we get Fast 9. I don't have a whole lot to say about that. I liked it for what it is. John Cena's a great addition to the cast, and there's some cool stuff in there, but it's not my absolute favorite. And then right above that, you're gonna be pretty shocked by that, but it's the original Fast and Furious, because it's pretty dated. It has some dated dialogue, and the visuals aren't that great, but I think the story is fantastic and kind of led us into what we have now, and we always go back to that in these movies and talk about the early days, and it's always a lot of fun to kind of look back. And although it is dated too, because I think they steal like DVD players, which I don't even know if you can buy those at the store anymore, but I just think it's a ton of fun. But the one above that is Fast X. I think it's gonna be maybe even moving up eventually, because it's just so perfect right now. It just did everything that I wanted it to do, and it kind of just, like I said, brought my interest back in this series. And if they continue on, I'm gonna be there day one like I was today, because it was just so much fun. And right above that is the one that I had at number 1, and I moved it down to number 2 because this other one is just so emotionally impactful for me still. But Fast 5 at number 2. This movie is fantastic. It's so good. All the action in it is worlds above most of the other ones. It's all really awesome. I mean, the bank vault scene is amazing. Just so many good things about this movie. And like the addition of Rock, I thought Dwayne Johnson in this one might be my favorite of him in the whole series, but yeah, it's so great. I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than just go watch it if you haven't. But so my number 1, that actually moved up from number 2 today after watching it, and that is Furious 7. I just love that movie so much. I mean, I went and saw it with my brother and my mom when it came out, and we sat in the D-box seats and it shook us all around and stuff. And me and my brother turned up my mom's intensity all the way, and she was upset about it in the moment, but she still laughs about it today. And we just had so much fun. And I mean, we all cried together at all the parts, like the Paul Walker scene, tribute scene at the end. It was all just so sad, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't shed a couple tears today watching it, because it's just so good. And honestly, if they would have ended the series there, I would not be upset, because it was the perfect send-off for Paul, and honestly the perfect send-off for everybody. It was just so good. James Wan directed the hell out of all the action, and honestly, so far, I think that one's the most like cinematic in my opinion, and I'm a big James Wan guy, so it's also why I have it at number 1. But yeah, that's my rankings. We'll roll through them one more time. We'll go 4, 8, then Fast 6, or whatever it's called, Tokyo Drift, Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast 9, the Fast and Furious number 1, then Fast X at number 3, Fast 5 at number 2, and then Furious 7 at number 1. So let me know your rankings in the comments now, and yeah, that's all I have for you today. Like I said, Fast X, go see it as soon as you can in the biggest screen possible. Listen to all that sound stuff, and I think you're gonna have a great time, and let me know in the comments what you think about it after you go watch it. So I will see you next time, maybe even at the movies.